Hey guys, I'm back with another video for you. Tonight we're going to cook a ribeye steak. Probably going to cook it in a way that you've never seen a ribeye steak cooked before. I'm going to go over a few things with you. When we cook this thing up, you got stresses about cooking steaks and not cooking it just right. It didn't come out like you wanted it to. We're fixing to put all that to bed, and you're fixing to learn a way to cook a steak that I think it's going to be pretty good for you. We're also going to throw in some asparagus and some mushrooms and a little bit of onions. So it's going to be a meal all in itself. You stick around. I got something for you. Alright, here we are in the kitchen. I've got my ribeye steak here. I've got my vegetables, my mushrooms, and my asparagus here. So just to go over ribeye steak. I don't know the whole particulars about it, but I've learned after cooking this thing a couple of times that I don't want to be cutting up my steak to eat my steak. You know what I mean? So I finally decided when I go to the store and I buy my steak, this steak belongs to me now. So I can cook this steak any way I want to cook it. I can dice it up, cut it up, chop it up, marinate it, season it. It's mine. Do whatever I want to with it. That's the kind of mentality you need to have when you go to the store to buy yourself a steak. Because what you're doing is you are bringing yourself home food. Food. Muscle. Meat. Especially if you're carnivore. You don't have to go through all these jumping the hoops to make your steak just right, to put it on the grill. You got to get a certain degree. You got to put the thermometer thing in there. No. You don't have to do that anymore. I'm fixing to show you a way that you can utilize all of the fats in this steak and bring out the flavors that you need. And all you need is salt and pepper and a little bit of ghee. Ghee is one thing that you need to keep around. I like ghee because you can use it for just about anything. You can put it in recipes, you can use it as butter, you can do just about anything with it. You can stick it on the shelf, you don't have to put it in the refrigerator, it's good stuff. So I'm going to show you what we do with this when we do these and when we do this. So right now I'm going to show you what I do with my ribeye steaks. First thing I want to do is I want to take off as much of this fat tallow as I can, because that's what I'm after on this steak. And as you can see, this steak has got plenty of good tallow in it. A lot of people, when they go to the store and they're looking for a steak, they just want a little bit of fat and they want more meat. That's okay. I still got plenty of meat, but I chose this one because it had a lot of the tallow, this fat in here, and that's what I want, because that's what I'm going to cook this with. So stick around here. What we're going to do, and sometimes you can just peel it off. See, this I can tell is a good steak because I can just peel these muscles apart. And this is what I want. I'm just going to take it. And another thing too, when you're at the store and you're buying a steak, you can't see inside that steak. I don't know if you can see it very well. I don't know how the light is in here, but you can see that there's a kind of a white sheen on this particular right here. This is a muscle shroud. It's something that goes over the muscles. It covers the muscles. Some people call it sinew. Some people just call it a muscle covering. And it just separates the muscles from each other. This is not fat. This is sinew or a muscle covering, and it's chewy and it's hard. And I know sometimes you went to a restaurant, you've got your steak and you're eating on it, and then you end up with a mouthful of chew. That's what you're chewing on, is this right here. And that is another benefit to doing steaks the way I'm fixing to show you how to do it, because when you get finished with what you're doing here, the steak that you end up with, you're going to think that's not very big. Well, I guarantee you, if you go to the restaurant and they bring you out the big steak, and by the time you hack and whack on that thing and you cut off all the chewy parts and everything else, you're going to end up with a little bitty steak. No difference. But this way, you get to enjoy it better. So what we're going to do is we're going to cut this off of this meat right here. So it's really easy to get off of there. What you want to do is you just want to put your knife right up underneath it. Just kind of separate it out. You don't need to whack on it or cut on it. Just kind of keep, you need a good sharp knife. Just keep the blade kind of up towards the sinew and just, it'll cut right off. Just like that. And we're just going to take it off. This is the chewy parts of the steak that when you're at the restaurant you're trying to get rid of. This is what people complain about. So just cut that piece off of there. We don't want to do that. We want to keep that. That sinew is tough, so it's hard for your knife to really cut into it. You may lose a little bit of meat, but you're not going to lose much. Okay. Now I've got down to here. Now this is not the shroud. This is not the covering. This is actually tallow, and this is what we're after here. This is the fat, and you can tell it's different because it's not actually stuck to the muscle. You can peel it right off. It's kind of a gummy, chalky kind of a texture to it. You can just peel it off. Get it off of there. Underneath it there may be some sinew that's right up against the muscle. And there is in this one we can see. So we're just going to take this off. Just like that. There we go. So what we do with this tallow when you're cutting your meat up is you're going to put it in your skillet. I've got a cast iron skillet. Doesn't have to be a cast iron skillet. I prefer cast iron skillets just because they're a little bit more regulated when you heat them up. They're a little bit easier to control. I need to go ahead and just go ahead and put it on a low, barely to a medium, because you want this tallow to start to render down. You want it to get to where it's melting down all the fat, all the juices. Now we're going to put this aside. There's a couple of more pieces of that. I said we're going to finish cutting the fats off of this. This is fat. There's different types of fat in beef, and I don't know the particulars of them. All I know is ribeyes have a really good tallow ratio to them. And if you get a good ribeye in there, you've got a good ratio of your good fats in there. Now we're just going to keep trimming. There's another piece right here. We can just take this off. See how it just kind of flakes and peels off of there? That's what you're going to do. You're just going to take it off. Now I'll have to give credit to my wife. She is not a fat person. She enjoys the flavorings that the fat actually gives you, but she doesn't like fat. She doesn't like the texture of it. That's just not her thing. She would prefer that when I cook her steaks, I trim them up really good, which I do for her. But she got me into trimming up steaks, and as I was doing that, I was thinking to myself, man, that's good fat that's coming off of there. That's the good flavor. That's what we want. So I started doing this on my own. And just to, take the fats and take them off of there and put them in my skillet that I am going to actually cook my steak in. And that's where I'm going to get all my good flavors from. See, the good thing about the ribeye is it's got lots of just muscle to it. There's lots of different muscle areas here that you can just take and cut off. And most of it's got tallow in there. This is good tallow. We're just going to keep adding to our pot over there, our skillet. Take that tallow out. Now as you get down closer to the muscle, you take the tallow off, you're going to see some more of that sinew and just cut it off of it. That's the chewy stuff. You want to get rid of it. Just get rid of that. If my dad was watching this, he'd be kicking me in the butt. Say, boy, what are you doing to that steak? You brain dead or what? It's all right. Love you, Dad. So here we go. Just keep cutting that off. Now, we're just going to keep that in there and keep that rendering. And there again, see, we've exposed more of this sinew, more of the chewy stuff in the steak that you really don't want to be chewing on. So we're going to take that off of there. Just ride it on down. Take it right out. So now you're thinking, well, that's not a whole lot of steak anymore. But you can tell, if you put all this back in here, that's pretty good steak now. And you don't have to whack around the gristle, you don't have to whack around the chew, you got good meat. What I typically do now with this piece of meat that I took it off it's the first one we took off. We took the muscle rind off of it, the sinew off of it. What I do is I cut this up, and with the other ones too, just in little 1-inch little cubes. You know, you go to some of these fancy steak restaurants, a lot of times on their menu, on their appetizers, they'll have beef medallions, or I don't know what they call them, armadillo eggs or whatever, I don't know. But they save good little pieces of steak, and it's not tough. It's good steak, and that's what this right here is. So we're going to put these right here. We got our steak right here. Now we've got our tallow ready to go. So I'm going to work on that a little bit. We'll be right back. Right, I just want to get you a little bit closer in here to see what I'm doing with this tallow. So I'm just bringing it in a little bit, just so you can see that I want to cook it. I don't want to cook it at a really high heat. I just want to render that fat down, just so that I get the oils out of it. So it's probably been cooking for about maybe 5-6 minutes, and it hadn't taken very long. So I just got it on a slow cook, just so that it renders all of the oils out of it, and that's what we're after. Okay, so we've got it down, and we've got some good oil in our pan here. So now what I want to do is, I'm not going to increase the heat just yet. What I want to do is caramelize my onions, my mushrooms, and go ahead and put my asparagus in here. So all of this is going in here all at the same time. We're just going to stir it all up. Going to add a little bit of salt and pepper. And just a touch of ghee. Now people say, well, if you got enough oils, you got your tallow, why do you need ghee? I add the ghee for just a little bit more of a fatty flavor to it. The tallow kind of has that beefy flavor, so I don't want it all to taste like my steak. I kind of want it a little bit different, so that I got some kind of a little bit of variety there. We're just going to marinate this here probably for about 4 minutes. I don't know about you, but I like my vegetables still a little bit crispy and just, I don't like them raw, but I like them cooked, but I don't want them mushy. We're going to let those cook for 3 or 4 minutes and I'll be right back. Okay, so this has been cooking for a little bit, so I'm going to go ahead and transfer this out. Oh yeah. I'm going to get it into a bowl. This here is amazing. Oh, that's hot. Alright, so now we're just going to salt and pepper our medallions here and our steak. Let's get them all seasoned up with just good pepper and salt. Okay. See, I didn't have to add any oil or anything to my pan. Some people like to put olive oil, some people like to put avocado oil. It's your preference, whatever you want. I choose not to put any of it because I prefer to have the tallow in there. Now we're going to go ahead and cook this steak. And some of you are wondering, well, how are you going to know if it's rare, medium rare, or however you like to cook your steak? Well, that's the beauty of cooking my steaks like this. When I cook my steak like this, I can actually see right in the midsection of my steak. So I can tell when the inside of my steak is going to start to cook, because the outside of my steak is going to be cooked all the way through. I can see the brown of it. These little medallions that we have here, then you're just going to turn. They're going to cook up really nice and neat. And the fun thing about these is while you watch your steak cook, you can go ahead and start eating some of these little medallions. I've got enough of that tallow that I've still got my stove or oven is not actually level, so all of my oil runs to one side. So I see it. I can just put that in there and fry these babies up. Now, when you're cooking your steak, there's a time limit. Look at what you got. I've got my stove set on just above a little bit of a low to medium. So it's just below the medium, but above the low, so it's right in that little pressure point there. So I watch my steak to see how well it's cooking. I don't want it to burn. And I just keep turning these little medallions. Oh yeah. Get it over here. Get some of this tallow on it. There we go. So that's the beauty about cooking the steak on the stove like we've got it going on right here. You can watch it, you can monitor it, you can tell the heat. You throw it on a grill, you're kind of at the mercy of the flames and the coals of what heat's coming up from there. Because the fats of your steak are going to be dripping on to those coals, and then you're going to be having fire. And then it's going to be searing the side of your steak, which is good. That's what you want. But there's no way to control that. Here we're controlling it because we've already took off all our fat. And we've utilized that to cook our steak. Look at these little medallions. These things. Alright, I flipped it a couple of times. I've got it cooked just where I want to. I'm going to go ahead and remove it. Oh yeah, that's perfect. There we go. Get our medallions over here. Now typically if you're barbecuing out or you got friends over, a good thing to do when you cut these steaks up is to have these medallions out, and that can be your appetizers. You can conversate and have good fellowship with your company and have these little medallions out, and that just gives them a good flavor of what they're fixing to taste with that good steak you're fixing to cook for them. Okay. Now, here's all our goodies. Oh yeah. Now here comes the truth. Get a little closer so we can see. I'm going to cut my steak. We're going to see just how well it cooked. I like my steaks about medium well, medium rare. I like them to have a little bit of pink on the inside, and they do. I don't know if you can see that. That's perfect. A little bit of pink. It's not blood. It's not red. Just got some pink to it. Oh yeah. Perfect. Perfect. Yep. Yep. That is perfect. Now comes the real taste. This is the test of the tests. Sucker's gonna be hot. Oh my goodness. You can't beat a good ribeye steak. I'm telling you what. And the good thing about this steak is I'm going to eat the whole thing. I'm going to use this knife to cut pieces that I'm going to put in my mouth. Not cut pieces that I'm going to stick on the side of my plate. We eliminated all that. It's time to eat. And it's going to be good. Thank you guys for stopping by. Appreciate you watching the video here. Hope you learned something today. Kepler Kitchen, we don't cook. We throw stuff together. This here is the evidence of what's happening when you throw stuff together. And it's darn good. You guys take care. Just remember, every choice you make today creates the lifestyle you live tomorrow. So make it a good one. Take care. I'm going to finish my steak. Mm-hmm.